Ripple's XRP is the smartest cryptocurrency to buy with $500 right now. At least according to USA Today, which I didn't even know was in the business of giving out financial advice, but hey, here we are. Now, very quickly before we get started, if you've watched one of my shows in the past, there's a very good chance that you caught me ranting about Ripple or XRP, and I just want to let you know that this video is not a troll. I actually want to talk about this article, and most importantly, I want to get your thoughts. I should also let you know that I have no position on XRP. I'm not long, I'm not short, I have nothing to do with Ripple or really the entire ecosystem. I have no positions. I'm just covering this because obviously it's a pretty popular topic. In fact, I'll once again remind all of you of my personal thoughts on XRP. I don't think it's a good investment, but I think it's a phenomenal trade. It has a lot of range, has a lot of volatility, and it can often trend. So if you're on that trend, whether bullish or bearish, you can make a lot of money. So in my book, it's a great active trade, but I think there's other better investment opportunities. That's my own opinion. But apparently the people at USA Today and the Motley Fool have a slightly different thought. XRP is the smartest cryptocurrency to buy with $500 right now. XRP is demonstrating its long-term growth potential. Whenever I see something like that, my interest naturally spikes because this subject is a very touchy one. For example, if you check out XRP on YouTube, you're going to realize that everyone is telling you this is how you're going to retire your entire lineage for, I don't know what, just buying a little bit. It's always pumping. There's like a lot of positive stuff here, but then yet, if you look at the USA Today, when they posted the article on X, everyone's ripping it apart. No thanks, paid for by who? So like I said, very, very polarizing. Depending on the social media platform you're on, you can find a lot of negative things, other ones, a lot of positive things, and that's just really the tip of the iceberg because you could really go down this rabbit hole. Before you go to the comments of this video and scream that XRP is a scam or go the other way and admit that you have an unwavering devotion to it and it's the best thing since sliced bread, why don't we go through the reasoning and dive into this as if we were quants or detectives ourselves and see if this argument actually holds any water. And then obviously after that, feel free to say whatever you want in the comments. So to get us rocking, the author of this article, Will, basically says, hey, if you put $500 in the S&P 500, generally it returns 10%. So that's just $50, and $50 ain't gonna get you squat. So you might as well look at something that is quote unquote better. Below, I will explore why the payment-focused token digital XRP might be an excellent long-term pick as it racks up regulatory wins in the US and seeks to disrupt the market for international transactions. For those of you who are new to the world of Ripple or maybe just XRP or just need a little bit of a refresher, that's the big pitch, is that, hey, for cross-currency transactions, that's the use case. Swift, it's slow, it's costly, and there's other issues with it. And really, we just have this big problem of changing one currency to another. And the list of those problems is endless. So I fully understand that something needs to be done here. And that's basically the pitch of Ripple and more specifically of XRP of this is the solution of basically swapping currencies. Alrighty, so the first reason of why Mr. Will loves XRP is the regulatory climate is easing. Donald Trump's presidential election victory sparked a sharp rally in many cryptocurrencies, and it isn't hard to understand why Wall Street is so optimistic. On the campaign trail, he promised to support the digital asset industry, and so far his administration is meeting or even exceeding expectations with a raft of newly passed legislation. Now remember, not necessarily doing this out of the goodness of his own heart. His own company, ticker symbol DJT, has a lot of crypto connections, so if crypto does well, his own investments, his own company is most likely also going to do well. On July 18th, Trump signed the Genius Act, which is designated to create a framework for issuing dollar-pegged stablecoins. On its face, this law helps legitimize cryptocurrencies as a mainstream asset class, which will also encourage businesses and institutional investors to get more involved without the fear of potentially breaking any rules. So for the longest time in the world of crypto, people really didn't have the quote-unquote green light because they didn't know what was above board, below board. They were waiting for that regulatory clarity, and now people are saying day over day, week over week, we are getting closer to that clarity we need, and obviously the Genius Act is one example of that. In fact, you could argue that there's a direct correlation between more regulatory clarity and now that the SEC has stopped its fight with Ripple and specifically XRP. So that's Will's big reason number one, regulatory clarity and seemingly the fact that our elected officials, our government, is somewhat supportive of crypto. Number two is allegedly the real world utility. XRP's main selling point is its focus on real-world utility. Instead of trying to be a platform for highly speculative and often useless decentralized applications, also known as dApps, XRP focuses on more tangible market for international payments. Its speed and low fees make it an ideal bridge between different currencies. As I said at the beginning of the video, that's the main pitch for XRP. Is basically you have currency A, currency B, and XRP is the bridge between the two. It is very fast and it's very cheap, but don't forget there are other competitors known as stablecoins. But don't you worry, because Will talked about that as well. Instead of allowing its niche to be disrupted, XRP's developers are joining in the stablecoin fray. In 2024, they launched a dollar-peg stablecoin of their own called RLUSD. Consumer use of RLUSD can indirectly benefit XRP because both tokens are built on the same networks. RLUSD transaction fees are paid with XRP, which is then removed from circulation, aka burn, which really does help with the supply-demand metrics. And on that note, I should let you know, apparently it's doing somewhat well. Ripple USD price explodes. Market cap hits 600 million with XRP powering every trade. And now finally, we get to the all-important question. Is it too late to buy XRP? Well, according to Will, no. XRP has graduated from the boom and bust volatility of a meme coin, and investors should focus on its long-term growth potential as it benefits from easing regulatory pressure and compelling real-world use cases. And now it's time for my thoughts, and this might surprise you. I kind of agree, and I also obviously kind of disagree. So the point I agree with is the easing regulatory pressures. That is true, 100% agree with that. And not only is it going to help Ripple and XRP, I think it's just going to help the entire crypto sphere. So the fact that we're just talking about cryptocurrency and the current administration, well, yeah, I agree with that point. And now for the point that I don't necessarily agree with, the quote unquote compelling real world use cases. In doing my research for this video, I've realized that when it comes to the world of Ripple, what people are really using is RippleNet. We're not really finding that many instances of large bank actually using XRP for these currency swaps. So once again, yeah, the names are all a little bit confusing, but that's technically completely different. Of course, on RippleNet, you could use XRP, but right now the metrics are saying that people actually don't. And then whenever I bring that up, the other discussion is, well, hang on, it's being built out right now and we're just waiting for that adoption. And that might be completely true. And maybe we just have to wait a little bit more time for XRP to become that much more popular. But don't forget, the longer it takes, well, stable coins aren't going anywhere. And if that grows in popularity, the world banking system might end up picking that route rather than XRP. So could it grow into what it's being pitched up? Of course it could. Of course it could. Of course it could. But right now, we're not really seeing those metrics. So basically, if you're investing in XRP right now, you do believe it will win out this fight. You think that XRP will be the main currency swap mechanism. And like I said, that is totally possible, but that's the risk in this particular investment. I'm not necessarily sold on it, but remember, I'm also not sold. I'm not long, I'm not short. I think it has great swings. I think it has great volatilities. I think it's a fun thing to actively trade, but when it comes into the entire universe of what I can invest my own money in right now, I personally believe that there's more compelling cases. But with that being said, I'm more than happy to be convinced that I'm wrong. Maybe there's a part of this argument that I'm completely missing out in either direction. Maybe I should be investing in the long term, or maybe I should put on a giant short position. Like I said, I'm just trying to be fair and objective and cover both sides of what in the world is going on. So of course, feel free to let me know your thoughts in a comment below. And don't forget, when it comes to XRP or really anything else in any market, don't risk more than you can manage. That's what I have for you now. I appreciate the good vibes. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.